Salut, c'est Mathieu en compagnie de Josh, Tyler, 21 Pilots. Guys, welcome to Quebec City. Uh,
Thanks for having us.
First of all, I want to talk about the last few shows that you did because you were in Ohio, and you did two shows in Columbus, and that this was a homecoming show for you guys. Um, how does it feel going back to where it all started, and how do you appreciate those shows that you did at Nationwide Arena?
I mean, it's the only city in the world where, one, we can drive from our own houses to go play the show, which is really cool because not only are you driving from where you live to go play a show, but you get to pass all the other venues you've played. Going up. I remember passing a lot of the smaller clubs and theaters that we would play, working our way up, while just being a local band, and it was kind of a special moment to drive by all those places, getting to the arena, which is obviously like the big stop. So we were excited.
Yeah, and in the past, you've done some songs where we can sense there's a kind of nostalgia of that time when you were young and you don't have all the adult life and all the adult things that you have to deal with nowadays. So, is that feeling? Uh, does it get harder when you go in Columbus? Does it remind you of that time when everything was much more simpler?
Well, I was poor then, so that's figured out.
That's better now.
Yeah, it's a lot better.
And on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you guys follow the Columbus Blue Jackets?
On a scale of 1 to 10, and I guess I'm pretty fair weather when it comes to hockey. I've only cared about it when it was the Blue Jackets, and they made a run this year, and so I watched this year. So I'm not like a hardcore fan because if I know people back home who've been supporting them and watch every game, even when they're terrible. So I don't claim to be the biggest fan, but we still pulled for them this year.
Excellent. Let's talk about this tour, Bendito Tour. It's been a huge success all around the world. Everywhere you went, people singing your songs. But those are pretty personal songs and pretty personal feelings that you express. How does it feel having those songs sung by 25, 30,000 people, singing back those lyrics that you wrote by yourself?
It gets old. Obviously, you want me to say that it's amazing, right?
No, I just want to know how it feels because it's really, 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 really personal. And then
No,
you get
it goes without saying. It's an amazing feeling to create a song in your the basement of your house, and then to see that many people singing it is it can change you. It has the power to actually change you, whether maybe it's the people that are there in the audience or it's us on stage. And I know that Josh and I can both speak to the fact that we've changed because of, hopefully for the better, but because of watching and hearing our crowd sing our songs back to us.
that's a great answer.
But other than that, it's pretty standard operation.
Anything you want to add to it, Josh?
I think he covered it. It's pretty standard. It's pretty normal situation for us. No, yeah, I think it's. I can't add anything that's more meaningful than what he said. It's special though.
Personal note, Jumpsuit is one of the best songs I heard in the last few years. It's absolutely amazing. It's one of the best ways to start a record I've heard in the last few years. What does this song mean to you? Because it's obviously a song that's maybe a little harder than the sounds that you expressed in the last few years. So, where does Jumpsuit fit in the 21 Pilots story?
Well, we've always tried to figure out a way to get people's attention because when you're truly a local band and you're playing in front of hardly anyone, having a song to get someone's attention was always very important. And that's why every time we release a record, usually that first song is a bit of an attention grabber. I don't know if we'll ever stray from that because it's so ingrained in the way that we came up. When you get on stage, you got to get people to turn around and look at you. So I guess in a sense, Jumpsuit accomplished that. Also, it speaks to the fact that I was drawn to the bass guitar while I was writing it. I kind of leaned heavily on that instrument on this record a lot. And then lyrically, Jumpsuit talks about, pressure, and how to deal with it. Whether it was, everyday, normal, human pressure that everyone experiences, or something more specific like trying to follow up a record and trying to write songs that all of a sudden people are going to hear, when it was never really that in the beginning. And so that I kind of combined all of those things into one, and that's how that song came about.
And as a drummer, I only imagine that it's a really fun song to play live.
Yeah, it's very fun. I mean, it's a song that I think we can both, because it's a harder song, we can both kind of like play a little bit harder, and I grew up just wanting to hit my drums as hard as I could, so that's definitely one that allows for that. And at the start of a show as well, I think it's always fun for us to kind of take the stage and, like Tyler said, trying to get people's attention. And when you can do that in a way where you're really getting into it, then it's a good feeling for both of us. So yeah, it's a really fun song to play.
Listening to every song that you made since you started, it's really hard to pinpoint the influences of 21 Pilots, because it's all over the place. You're doing pretty much every style, which leaves us wondering, what did you guys listen to when you were growing up? What was the artist that maybe you bonded over, or some things that you listened to while you were growing up?
Nothing.
Absolutely nothing.
Played out in the woods, heard some chipmunking, laid by a babbling brook, and then woke up one day and was like, I'm going to write songs. I don't know. It's hard to answer that question. I don't know exactly if we can pin everything onto one artist. Josh and I didn't have a particular artist that we bonded over. I know that there are a lot of bands that have that story of, we went to this show together, or we listened to this band together, or this artist, and we really bonded over our love of vinyl. And I don't know, it didn't happen that way for us. We started making each other laugh. That's it. And then from there, do you want to make music? I guess. Sorry.
No, it's okay. I really appreciate the fact that when you don't really like a question, and we can tell that you don't like the question.
What?
You explain it to me, and I really appreciate that.
Well, it's just it obviously it's a question that we get a lot, and it's really it's difficult to pin it down. I mean, we could talk for hours. I personally, I think Josh as well, we're influenced by songs. I don't know if there's an artist that we ate up everything they did. I don't think that there's an artist in the history of music that has released everything that they've released I've agreed with or loved or connected with. And I think that speaks to the climate now more than ever, that you can be influenced by specific songs, maybe a specific verse or a specific sound or a specific lyric. And that's why it's so hard to answer the question, because there isn't an artist. I can't just name an artist or a band and say I want them to represent us in explaining how we came about making music the way we did. It's so specific. Moments, certain kick drum sounds, like I said, a certain lyric. I mean, I could go down the line, a certain music video, and so because of that, it's just really hard to come up with maybe 2 or 3 artists to just kind of shotgun against the camera. So
let me be honest, I wasn't glad I asked the question when you answered the first time, but
I think
it's a really good answer.
Question, and it's something that I like to explain, but it's taken time to try to put it into words why it's hard to answer that question. But that's why it's hard to answer it.
I would also add, I think the older we get, and we've had this conversation a couple times, but we're influenced by our dads, and like the reason that we are the way that we are, or influenced by movies or maybe actors. There's for me like a drumming element, but then there's also a performing element that maybe doesn't even come from musicians necessarily, but a feeling that I had when I first played the drums. So there's a lot that goes into it that's not necessarily like we saw this one artist and they changed our lives and then that's why we do what we do. I think it is a very hard question to answer, and I think there's a lot even external to music that goes into why we're here now and why we got into music in the first place.
Well, for an answer that you've heard a million times before, it was a pretty thoughtful answer.
I don't think we've ever answered it like that before. We've
got a world first.
There you go.
Here in Quebec City.
But Sting.
But Sting.
But the police.
There you go. Josh, Tyler, thank you very much for your time. Have a great show tonight. Enjoy your time in Quebec City. And thank you for all the music that you offered us. It's really appreciated. We really like it on Weekend 91.9. So
Thank you. Appreciate that.
thank you.
Yeah, man.